I'm finding so much reference to double-edged sword and so much reference to the beast just in America itself. And from his mouth came a double-edged sharp sword to smite thee and to speak the truth. Smite and truth, the double-edged sword cuts both ways. Hypocrisy much? And from it arises a seven-nation army. Like, Russia joins forces with the United States, I think you will find. Anyway.
Joined now by Roger Stone. Roger's been very outspoken on Bannon, his associations with Epstein. Stone is the author of the Bush crime family. By the way, the Bushes are all over the Epstein files. It's really dark and disgusting ways. And Roger joins us now. Roger, good to see you again. Welcome back to the show.
Great to be here. Imagine my surprise when I saw an email released by the Justice Department in which, in a conversation, an email conversation with Steve Bannon, Jeffrey Epstein attacked me because I gave an interview in which I pointed out the connections between the Epstein's operation and the Clintons, because Epstein provided the seed capital for the Clinton Foundation, for the Clinton Global Initiative. He funded a nonprofit called Terra Mar, was run by Ghislaine Maxwell. That came from the Clinton Foundation as well. Supposed to be an environmental group, actually kind of a grooming pool of young interns for Jeffrey Epstein. But you're exactly right. After Epstein has been convicted of sex crimes in Florida, and immediately after being fired at the White House, Steve Bannon emerges as an advisor, trying to help reshape his image. I believe the some 15 hours of videotape that reportedly exists is Bannon coaching Epstein on how, as he says in the emails, not to look creepy, to look less threatening. If asked about whether the girls look young, was reported, insist that they were of age even though they looked young, which of course was not true. So his role here, and he constantly denigrates President Trump. So he's out of the war room defending President Trump, but in the emails with Epstein, he's calling Trump stupid.
How can that be? Can I ask you, I guess as I understand your reputation is that you've always had a proximity to President Trump and, his associates. And so it seems kind of risky for you to be putting this out here. Have you ever asked anybody, why? Why this? Why this proximity? What's going on here? Why is this in our orbit? It seems dangerous.
Well, first of all, define in our orbit. I don't think Steve Bannon is an intimate advisor to the president anymore.
Hasn't been for a while.
He was fired
Right.
from the Trump White House. To go to your question as to why, I suspect that the answer is money. In all honesty, I mean, Steve Bannon's operations initially financed by the Mercers, the conservative folks from Long Island, then from the very controversial Miles Kwok, a Chinese national. So I suspect he was looking for money, but he was coaching Epstein on anti-Trump activities. But when Trump won and Epstein was shocked and his associates said, "What do we do now?" He said, "Don't worry, we have Bannon." So, or Bannon with me, to quote it exactly. So these emails and these photos are even creepier. Epstein gave Bannon an expensive Hermes Apple Watch. So this is not some casual one-time relationship. He is actively advising Epstein on rehabilitating his image. I believe that the 15 hours of videotape are practice sessions for a 60 Minutes interview that was scheduled but then canceled after Epstein was arrested after being indicted by the Trump Justice Department in 2019.
What do you say to critics who say, well, no, it's hard to trust Roger Stone. He was probably in on it as well. What do you say to critics?
Well, you're called a conspiracy theorist.
Yes, I was in it. Epstein attacked me for pointing out his connections with the Clintons. Look, in my 2015 book, The Clintons' War on Women, the longest chapter in the book, chapter 7, Orgy Island, is about Jeffrey Epstein. Why? Because I read every word of the sworn testimony of Virginia Roberts Giuffre, for example, and other victims who refused to settle with Epstein. That's why I'm certain that Bill Clinton was on the island. 3 different witnesses in their sworn testimony in federal court place him on the island. On one occasion, Virginia Roberts Giuffre says that Jeffrey had flown into 17-year-old twin sisters for Bill Clinton's amusement. It's there in the sworn testimony. Also, the FAA manifest records for the Lolita Express show you that Bill Clinton was on the island. So Clinton's position he was never on the island is false, that he was only on the plane a few times. He was on the plane 27 times, including when he and Jeffrey Epstein flew to meet the Sultan of Brunei, who is a notorious pedophile. They picked up a multi-million-dollar check for the Clinton Foundation.
Can I ask you, so I want to follow up on the Bannon piece of this. You have, I think you've said, and correct me if I'm wrong, but have you called Bannon an intelligence asset here? Because a lot of us are wondering.
No, look, I'm very clear, and I'll disclose this. I have a beef with Bannon because he testified at the House Intelligence Committee, as I did. He was asked specifically, did you ever discuss WikiLeaks, Julian Assange, or these allegedly stolen emails that were allegedly at the heart of the Russian collusion hoax? And he said, no, never. You can imagine my surprise when he showed up at my trial in New York as a witness for Robert Mueller and asked the exact same question. He said, oh yes, Stone brought it up in every conversation I had with him in 2016. By the way, I passed 3 polygraph tests on that narrow question. Never happened. And then he went on to say that I was the campaign's access point to WikiLeaks. I ask you, how do you lie under oath about Russian collusion that we now know never actually happened? So I assume that Bannon testified falsely against me. It's called perjury, because he was facing indictment for the embezzlement of $15 million from the Build the Wall Foundation. He was pardoned for that crime federally, re-indicted in New York State. He pled guilty to it. And then, strangely enough, a Democrat judge gave him no jail time, where his 2 co-conspirators in that controversy got long jail sentences. So it's very, very odd, but that is the basis of my beef with him. And now these Epstein connections are extraordinary.
Coming across things that don't contradict each other on the same shows over and over and over. Don't you agree? Everything contradicts itself. Everything. It's a get out of jail free card. It's a mulligan. It's what's going to happen? Well, the meek can inherit the earth. The meek shall inherit the earth. But we've got to inherit it. And I put war in for it. When you inherit something, you don't fight over it, you just inherit it. You have to be faithful to mummy and daddy to get your inheritance. Yeah? Where do you want to inherit, hell or heaven? And from his mouth came a double-edged sharp, a 2-edged sharp sword. Hypocrisy, doublespeak. To smite and to speak truth. Because the sword, God's sword, is God's word. And from his mouth came a sharp a two-edged sharpened sword. A 2-edged sword cuts both ways. I'm not trying to see something that's not here. That's not there. Alright. Neither here nor there. I'm not trying to see something that's not there. I'm trying to work out if there's any way that that doesn't make sense, and I can't find a way that doesn't make sense. Everyone and everything to do with, especially America, and with government and politics and politicians, are contradicting themselves over and over and over, and every story has a counter story, and it's I see only one option here, is to walk away from it. If you can't make head nor tail of it, can't make any sense of it, because it seems like there's a story to please everyone, but none of them appear to be true. There is something here to piss everyone off as well, but nothing seems to be true. It's to keep everyone engaged and keep everyone fighting with each other. To hell with it. Ah, to hell with it. Walk away.